Hey, this is Ryan Carraher with a 5-part series on playing modern 251 lines. This is video 3 of 5, and this lesson will be looking at using common devices such as triads to create a modern outside sound. So by this I mean using sidestepping. It's very similar to what we covered in video 2, but this time with triads. So on a D minor 7, for example, we'll take the chord triad of D minor, and we'll use sidestepping, so we'll also use E flat minor triad and D flat minor triad to create a polytonal effect. Hope you enjoy the lesson. All right, so for this first line, over the D minor 7, instead of thinking Dorian this time, we'll be thinking triads. And we'll be thinking sidestepping like we were doing in the last lesson. So the first notes just form a D minor triad. The next notes are selected from an E flat minor triad. It's not the whole triad. We have an E flat, the root, and a G flat, which is the flat 3. And then the rest of that bar is just Dorian. Besides the last note, which is an E flat, which is again derived from that E flat minor triad we're using. So over the G7, we start out using the same idea of triads. So we start out with a mixture of different triads. We have a D natural, a B natural, and we go to an A flat, which comes from an A flat triad, which is the triad up a half step. And then we go into a B flat diminished triad. Now I'm thinking B flat diminished because when you have a G7 chord, you have 2 triads that you can derive diatonically from that chord. You have a G major and you have B diminished. So I'm just doing the same sidestepping concept and moving that B diminished down a half step and using that as well. So now we're going up to D natural, which is from, it could be from G Mixolydian or from the G triad that we're using. And then we have an A flat triad mixed with notes from G major. And then we have a B flat from B flat diminished. And then we have this F sharp on the last 16th note of the second bar, which is just an approach tone because we're going to be resolving up a half step to this G on the downbeat of the C major 7, which happens to be the 5th of the chord. And then we just have a major scale run. And we end on the 3rd of C major 7. All right, so for line 2, on the D minor 7, we'll be doing something a little different, still using triads. We'll be using the diatonic triads derived from C major because D Dorian is the same scale as C major, but starting on the 2nd degree of C major, which is D. And we'll also be using the triads B flat major and D flat minor. So these are going to be used over the G7 chord in the 2nd bar, and these triads come from the diminished scale. So over this D minor 7 chord, we'll be using a B flat major triad to anticipate what's going to be going on in the 2nd measure. So the first triad we have is an E minor derived from the third degree of C major. And then the next one are just notes of B flat major. And then we have a C major triad. And then we end that measure with a mixture. So we have an A natural, which is in the chord D minor 7. We have a D flat or a C sharp. We have a B flat, which is from the B flat triad, and then an E, which is from the E minor triad. And then we enter the second bar, so we're now playing over G7. So we start G7 with another B flat triad. And then we go into a D flat minor triad. Now we go into a mixture between B flat major and D flat minor. And then we finish that bar with a D flat minor triad. And now we're over the C major 7 on the last bar, the second to last bar of the phrase. We start the phrase on the 7th. And then we go into a G major triad, which is, again, this is derived from C major. And then we have an E minor triad, again derived from the key of C major. And then we end with a Ionian run, ending on the 7th of the chord in the 4th measure. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on modern 251s. Please check out my other lessons. I have a lot of free downloadable lessons on my website, www.ryancarraher.com. You can also schedule one-on-one Skype lessons with me through my website. Thank you for watching.